So, welcome to another episode of the Future of Touchless Parking presented by GMP. I'm your host, David McCann, and today I'm very, very happy to be joined by Nick Mazzenga from Kimley Horn and Chirag Jain from Get My Parking. So today's topic is going to be about trends in the world of permitting. Now, to give you a small preamble, I'm going to share my screen here so we can get to my presentation and I can introduce the topic. But what we're really after by putting together a series of webinars like this is to make your decision as parking leaders around technology easier. We have a very simple, if maybe corny vision. We want to see that future where we get dropped off to the restaurant and the car parks itself and picks us up when we're done. We really want that future, and we know that it's far away. We know that it might not be here for years yet. And so to make that easier, to get to that step, we wanted first, well, hey, can we at least make garages touchless? And so that was how Get My Parking got started. We wanted to create a technology platform for the parking industry so we could have our cool futuristic life in a big city. Now, Get My Parking, to give you some small background, is a 5-year-old technology company to the parking industry, and we're working with some of the world's largest parking operators. Apcoa Parking, for example, in Europe is the largest operator there. We're working with Town Park in the US, and we've got partnerships across South and Southeast Asia with a number of parking operators. So we've done over 50 million transactions. We're enterprise ready. But in interests of understanding us a little bit better, before I pass the baton over to Nick, I'm going to take a quick minute just to introduce the solutions that we bring to the table for the parking industry. Now, we have 6 core products. One is called GMP Access, which is simple. It's a way to connect your gates, a way to control your gates. Sorry, I think I've got my wrong slide, so I'm going to ad-lib. Sorry, everybody. GMP Access is a way to control your gates, connect them to the cloud, and provide an access point for your customers via an app. This solution is basically an IoT gate kit that allows any access method and to connect to any barrier, and in the process allow you to connect all of that to your customers. GMP Street is an on-street solution that allows for the full payment through any payment medium, as well as discovery for your customers, again through an app. GMP Lot is a solution for all of your gated parking lots needs. This is you're able to manage every single service that you need to provide and maintain within that gated lot, as well as connected to an app. GMP Permit is a solution for monthly parkers, and I'm going to just not talk much more about that one because that is what Chirag will be talking about today. GMP AI is a really cool little piece of technology. We use machine learning to solve some of your more difficult challenges. And then finally, GMP IQ is a way for us to produce a real-time performance dashboard for you, while at the same time also introducing real-time analytics and a few other benchmarks that will really help you get control over your businesses and your properties. So with that introduction, somewhat poorly said, please forgive me, I'm going to pass the baton over to Nick Mazzenga from Kimley Horn, who's going to talk to us about some of the trends that are happening within the permit space in the US and around the world. So Nick, please take it away.
Thank you, David. And can I get a confirmation? You can see the screen, right? Everyone can see it?
Yes, sir.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you for having me today. Just real quick, I want to talk a little bit about some of the industry trends that we're seeing on the consulting side of things, and what we're seeing in that permit parking space. So, but a brief kind of overview. So I'm with Kimley Horn. based out of Richmond, Virginia. We're a national engineering consulting firm, and I always like to say we're a parking consulting firm within a much larger firm. Some of the services that we offer, everything from the design and construction side of things to supporting on mixed-use developments, any sort of parking needs there. I specialize on the technology and permit management side of things, so that's my area of expertise, and that's what I'm really passionate about. But outside of that, Kimley Horn has a whole host of other parking services. So, that's my quick plug. If you ever have questions on the parking side of things from consulting aspect, by all means, definitely reach out. So a bit about Kimley Horn. Do want to talk about these are the trends that we're seeing in the parking permit space. And I definitely want to get out there and say, forget that word monthly or annual when you think about permitting. Think more about daily use. But before you can even get to daily use, you kind of have to monitor the utilization that you have for each of your monthly facilities. And then you use that data-driven approach to kind of better understand your daily demand within that existing permit program before you can even kind of jump to that. I do want to ask David, can you post up the poll I have right now? I want to get some insight from some of the folks here on the line. Okay. So real quick, have you considered moving from an annual or monthly parking permit to a daily permit model? Just curious to know. So everyone just throw up your answer there. And then David, when you think there's enough responses, and let's see the results. I'm even going to vote here too, because we're considering some stuff. So yeah, once you feel like there's enough responses, and let's see it. I'm very curious to see kind of the landscape of the folks who are on this call. Okay, so more no's than yeses, but that's good to know. So from this standpoint, pricing is key, and it's your strongest lever that you have in your toolbox. A daily price, it needs to be set to both encourage enrollment in a program, but you don't want to break the bank. And next thing, enforcement, it's not going anywhere, but it definitely can be improved if you move to like a call out and enforce type of system. That'll help improve the efficiency of a mobile LPR system, because that's something that you're definitely going to have in place if you move to something more along these lines. Converting to a call out and enforce protocol, this allows mobile LPR units to kind of geotag a violator and then communicate that to supporting staff to then come back and issue a citation, so that mobile LPR can constantly be moving. The next thing is put the permit power back to the people. So moving that management of the permit from the very person-centric vision. So you want to get away from that traditional model where someone goes to an office, there's a little window, you give them the money, and then they hand you a sticker or, some sort of parking hang tag. We want to get away from that, because you want to allow the people who are actually, requesting a permit to have that power to change the permit, to adjust it. It just shouldn't be necessary to have to do that very manual process that requires a lot of, extra stuff and extra staffing. So what do you get with a daily permit model? You kind of get greater flexibility, and you can dynamically price different facilities. Say, for example, in a university environment, you have a very big, important presentation on one day, and you want to make sure that you get to your class early and get to your place early where, and you have all your presentation materials and you're just carrying all this stuff. And you want to make sure on that day, all right, I want a really good parking spot nearby. But on every other day, you don't need to park really close, and maybe it's nice weather, and maybe you don't mind parking a little bit further away and walking. So that's the flexibility you get with a daily parking permit model. And that's something that we're seeing, our clients be more interested in, because it allows and puts more greater flexibility in it. And the next one is a rules-based permitting model. So when I say rules-based, you don't need to, let's take all the ambiguity out of the permit process of who gets to park where. Set up the rules beforehand, program those into your identity management system if you have something like that, and let the system do the work for you. So then when someone enrolls or is a new employee at your office park or something, that integration between your identity management system and your permit system, it just says, okay, this person's allowed to park here, 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 and here. And it just takes all that ambiguity out of, who can park where. And it also helps prevent abuse. So those are some of the major trends that we're seeing right now. But I do want to talk a little bit more about, so you want to move to a daily permitting model. I saw a larger percentage of people are not in a daily permit model environment. So some of the things you got to do just to kind of move towards that. So you got to install sensors at your permit facilities. You got to kind of shift to that daily permit model. You got to understand your data and what you're dealing with. So going out there, installing the sensors, collecting the data to just kind of get that baseline. Then you got to collect that daily utilization by facility. So you're monitoring that utilization of each permit facility, and you're going to use that data-driven approach then to better understand kind of the daily demand that you're going to have with your permit program. The next thing you got to do, you got to modify your oversell rates by facility. So you got to look at that data, and that data will tell you where you need to go. It'll help you better manage and price underutilized facilities to kind of maximize that capacity, and then also the revenue. Okay, so what are our clients asking for? What do they come to us and say, can we do this? Some of the things that we're seeing is, can we move to a daily permit model? It's not for everyone, and it's not for every use case. And we'll be the first ones to admit and say, hey, based on the data that we're seeing and based on your clients or your users of your system, daily permit model just might not make sense. Also, a lot of people are asking us, well, what are our peers doing? Well, when we look at peers, we look at different industry types. So there's, the healthcare peers, there's the airport environment peers, there's the municipality peers, and everyone's kind of doing it a little differently right now. And also, how will a daily permit impact my overall operations? That's something that people want to understand. Do I need more staff for a daily permit model? Do I need less staff? And then the biggest thing is this going to cost my users more? And the connotation of like, oh gosh, I'm paying every day for something, or I'm paying, per use for something. It gives you this idea of like, oh, it's going to cost more. But more often than not, when we've gone through and ran the numbers, our users actually end up paying less on the back end of what their average parking would be. So if you appropriately price it. So that's the important thing. You really have to study your data and make sure you appropriately price it, because if you don't, then you could end up charging your users a little bit more, and that's not good. The next thing is, like, our clients are asking us, I want to get rid of my paper permit. How can I do that? Can I even do that? And then depending on the size of the operation, we're seeing more and more of our clients, they're hiring dedicated parking data analytics staff. Now, if it's a small operation, you probably don't need, a dedicated data analyst wizard, as I refer to it as. But on some of these larger operations, you want to really know how you're doing and how you're operating, and what other things you can adjust and tweak to kind of optimize that fully. So those are some of the things that we're seeing from our clients and that they're asking us for. And this is almost like going back to the basics. In some ways you can like improve your permit experience. And it really comes down to like the simple things matter. I'm a very big proponent of saying to any of my clients, well, yes, you can spend X dollars on this fancy new piece of technology, but in reality, if you do these 3 simple things, it will actually provide you a much greater bang for your buck parking experience. So what I'm about to say, these are pretty basic things, but I think everyone kind of needs to know these are some important things that you should really consider and think about. Cleaning and painting. I mean, like I said, back to the basics. Just performing a very easy cleaning and painting helps your users understand, okay, where should I park? It gives them a very clear indication. I'm in the right spot. I'm supposed to be here. I'm okay to be here. I'm not going to get ticketed. The next one is, kind of formalizing your policies and procedures, just making sure it's written down on paper, somewhere you can go back to your managers and say, look, this is what we're supposed to be doing. And this is why we're not going to stray from that permit person who comes in and says, hey, can I get a pass? Well, no, you're not actually allowed to have one. Also, standardizing that visitor parking experience. It kind of goes back to the cleaning and painting thing. Just letting your visitors know, the people who are coming on a transient basis, not your regular daily drivers, but letting those visitors know, okay, I can park here. I'm okay to park here. And it just gives them a predictable visitor experience. And then the next thing is standardizing loading areas. Standardizing those types of things, it just provides again a much more consistent enforcement of the loading regulations that you have, and it helps lower that number of people that try to kind of go around those permit rules and just say, I'm only going to be here for 5 minutes. I'm just dropping something off. Okay, I can park here. But then what are you doing? You're taking someone's permit space. So those are some very, very simple things I just want to kind of end with, because sometimes we think of like, oh gosh, we can spend lots of money and do lots of extra stuff. But if we go back to the basics, sometimes we can improve a permit experience pretty resoundingly. So that's kind of it for my trend discussion. We will have questions at the end, but I just want to say thank you. I appreciate this. So
it's a really great presentation, Nick. I think there's some good best practices there for improving permitting experiences. So thank you all for sharing that. And again, we'll circle back to questions to Nick and Chirag after our next presentation. But I think Chirag Jain is the co-founder of Get My Parking. So why don't we pass the baton to him and hear what we have to hear what he has to say. Chirag, over to you.
Hi, Dave. Thanks a lot, Nick, for such a insightful presentation. I think some of the trends which you spoke about in the permits are definitely going to be there for even the post-pandemic era. And let me just talk about what is happening now in the overall global parking industry, and also how we have started working. So we go to office less, we are working from home more. And I understand some of these trends will go away and some of these trends will stick with us, and we might not be going to office every day even after all the lockdowns are over. But essentially what we have seen is a massive change in the trend, where Nick also asked that how many of us have thought of moving from monthlies to dailies, and a third of us kind of said that we are contemplating whether we should move to dailies, and 2/3 said that they don't want to. And I completely understand that monthly business is a certain business. It gives us definite revenues. And it's one of the core parts of our parking industry. And we have been thinking about it. And that's why we realized that there's a need to bring something in the middle of monthlies and dailies. The reason for that is very simple. People are not going to office. People are not traveling as much as they used to earlier. And hence, a monthly permit is simply not commercially viable enough anymore, which means people will discontinue their monthly permits and they will have to move to daily or become daily parkers or just use parkings as transient users. And that means there will be a loss in revenue in the monthly business. And that got us thinking, and basis that we created a new product, which is called Flexi Permits. Imagine you offer your parkers a session-based permit where a parker can buy 10 sessions upfront. So they pay for 10 sessions and they can use these 10 parking sessions over next 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. And Nick was talking about rule-based permits. So everything is completely designed in a way where we can suit your business needs. You can create whatever type of product you want, whether it's 5 parking sessions or 50 parking sessions, and you can define the expiry time. You can also define that each session cannot be more than 10 hours or 12 hours and works only on weekdays or weekends. The idea here is to give customers what they really need, and in that create an ecosystem which benefit the landlords, the operators, and the customers. And we also realized that not every business and not every market would be able to adapt to pass-based or session-based permits. And hence we created another product which is called duration-based permit. In this, you could just simply buy a specific amount of time. So let's just say I purchase 900 minutes in a garage, and could be across multiple garages of the same operator. So if you have like 5 garages, you could have a single permit which works across 5 garages, so I can park anywhere I want. And I have a timer which is 900 minutes, and whenever I park, if I park for 100 minutes, I'm now left with 800 minutes, and so on and so forth. This is something which we have seen has worked wonders with corporate and fleet customers. So if you have a corporate customer who have, let's just say, who had been using a maybe 50 permits in a specific garage for their employees who used to come every day, but they're not coming every day now, so they're going to reduce it. If you just go to them and tell them we give you a flexible permit and you buy 10,000 minutes or 100,000 minutes from us, and any of your parker can use it, that gives phenomenal amount of flexibility to them and brings a lot of certainty in our business. So just wanted to kind of bring some new products into the industry and give all of us some food for thought. The idea again is to create an ecosystem which benefits everyone, to listen to what our customers, consumers need, to understand where the trends are going. And this will give us better cash flow management because we can launch these prepaid products and charge the users upfront, which gives us certainty in the cash flow. It helps us in retaining the relationships which we have with our monthlies, because once you lose them and they don't renew the contract, it's very hard to bring them back. And in this transition phase, we can keep them engaged with us with the flexi permits. And this works with all of your existing power systems, so you don't have to replace anything. You just have to add on the GMP permit system onto your existing ecosystem, and this would work seamlessly with all the park systems or with all the other revenue mechanisms which are already in place. So with that, just summarizing what we do, and this is something which David earlier mentioned. So our GMP Access and GMP Lot can plug into your garage with the existing park system and create a completely contactless, seamless ecosystem. And would love to know your thoughts on our GMP permit and flexi permit system. Please write to me at chirag@getmyparking.com. Would love to hear more on any use case or business cases you think we can solve better. Thank you.
Thanks, Chirag. It's funny, you and Nick were both talking about the monthly type, or the purchase by minutes types of parking solutions for permit holders, and it made me think about loyalty programs that are used by Starbucks and many of these F&B chains. So the example that I'm thinking about here is if I'm a former monthly pass holder, and you flip me over to this, the minute based version, there's a neat little knock-on effect that would likely happen. So let's say, for argument's sake, I spend $200 to pick up a parking pass for sufficient minutes for the month. I think what's going to happen is, after I've spent that, whether it's the employer that paid it or I paid it, it's going to become something of a sunk cost for me. In effect, that money is not going to feel so much like money anymore. And what that'll mean is, if I'm out and about in other areas of the city, or maybe in another city, and I see a garage that happens to have your brand on it, or the operator's brand on it, I'm likely to park in that space, just because, or I'm more likely to park in that space just because it doesn't feel like money. If I have to take some change out of my pocket and pay the meter on the street, driving into your garage with my minutes that have already been prepaid will feel cheaper, even though it might be more expensive. So I think there's tremendous potential for loyalty. A really interesting potential way to recoup some of that money.
So there's definitely a network effect. The way we operators, we generally white label our entire solution for the operators. So there's a significant amount of brand association. So let's just say an operator A deploys a solution across 20 garages in a city, and someone who has purchased a permit at a home location can use the same credential to access garages all across. Obviously subject to how the business rules are designed by the operator and how their contracts currently with the landlords are. But there definitely is an opportunity to use the network which you have and leverage that networks to benefit not just the home location, but all the other locations as transient users.
Yeah, it's a potentially brilliant new application for growing revenue, for sure. So, in interests of everyone's time, I think we can sort of stop hearing from me so much, and maybe ask a couple of questions that have been put to us. So, there's a question here for you, Nick, from Stephen Friend.
Yeah.
He's asked you to describe the type of facility where you've seen the elimination of permits work well.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to that?
So I want to make sure I answer Stephen's question in a couple different veins. So elimination of permits totally, I guess, or elimination of permits on a monthly basis and moving to a daily model. So I look at it from client type. So the first client type I think of is in a university environment. So we've worked with some universities where we've gone to a daily model of permitting, and we've gone away from hang tags, we've gone away from stickers, all that stuff that you got to issue and maintain inventory of, and just going strictly to an LPR-based system where your license plate is your credential, and you can go park wherever you want to park within that facility, and you have a credit card tied on the back end or your student account, and then it's just going to be charged by that. So in that environment, we've seen pretty good success with going to a daily permit model. There's other client types or other sizes that it's not effective. One of the other things is if you're working in, say, a hospital environment or healthcare environment where, all right, you have a shift, you're going to be there X days per month. It doesn't matter flexibility. You're going to have to park there on those days per month. So going to a daily permit model, not so great. You might as well just stick with a monthly permit model and leave it at that. So there's different client types and there's different use cases where it is very effective, and then others just like, don't bother. So hopefully that answered your question, Stephen.
It's a very good question. So a couple more have come in, actually. Looks like one of these is for Chirag. So Chirag, it's a question about if Flexi Permit works with park systems and whether this solution can also manage monthly permits.
Yeah, sure. So our as a platform, we believe that we need to integrate with what is already there in the ground. And currently we work with majority of the park systems. Our IoT kit can connect to any gate, any barrier which is there in the world. And we have over 2,200 deployments all across the world now, working with all the major park systems. So this works with your existing park system. You don't have to rip out anything. There's a small IoT kit which gets plugged in, and then you can decide whether you want to, as Nick just mentioned, if you want to add a LPR or you want to do a RFID or QR or Bluetooth. We have all the 4 access methods, fairly standard. We don't, in fact, sell any hardware. All the hardware can be bought from Amazon. It's a completely modular system which you can plug into your existing ecosystem and start, facilitating a complete contactless experience to the end consumers. And this works with existing permit systems as well. So our permit system is a full-fledged monthly permit system, but also offers all of these new types of products, whether it's flexi duration based or flexi session permits. And the idea is to open it up for businesses to decide what kind of permits they need, and we can configure the rules to suit their requirements.
So there's one last question from Ishani that I'll read it out because I think it's a bit of a tough question, and we may choose to take this one offline. But Ishani has asked, in the Indian scenario, who are such solutions? So we're talking about flexi parking here, marketed to. Can they be used to improve business for markets that have a great deal of informal parking networks? Maybe smaller operators would be a more simplified term. Can this be used for someone that has small lots and not many of them?
I think irrespective of the geography we are talking about, the only thing which changes is the pricing and the how long do you want to set each session for. But it can be used for a single lot also. The idea is all you are doing is you are like it's a typical marketing thing where you package n number of services and you sell it with a discount to the user, and the user finds it commercially viable. They purchase it, and then they'll get hooked on to your service because they have already bought 10 services from you. It's like going for a haircut. So they'll give you a package that for next 6 months you need maybe 9 haircuts. So here's a package. It's exactly like that. and something which has been tried, tested, and proven in the other industry. We're just bringing it into the parking industry. Can be used for a single garage, can be used for a network of garage.
Fabulous. Well, I hope that this has been valuable for everybody. Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Chirag, for joining us and sharing about some trends in the industry. I'm going to close with my usual poll question to everybody. I'd just like you to tell us how we can make this better by telling us what we should be talking about in our next webinar series as they come. So I've tossed a quick poll. I would really appreciate some feedback from you. But Nick, I'm sorry I cut you off.
I was going to say, this has been fun, so thank you. And if anyone does want to reach out to me, LinkedIn's probably the best solution. I'm very active on there, so please reach out to me on LinkedIn if you do have any other questions or follow-up. So.
Fabulous. I think we'll give this another 30 seconds here. We're about 1/3 of participants who've been kind enough to give us some feedback. All right, perfect. I think that's good right here. So we've got pretty well everybody that's responded now, so that's great stuff. So again, thank you all so much for joining us, just in interests of transparency. It looks like what people want to know more about is working with reservation partners. We've been trying for a while to find a way to slide that topic into one of these webinars. We haven't even gotten the verbiage right yet, but we're going to try real hard to make that one happen for you guys. Again, thank you so much. Happy Tuesday, and I wish you all a great rest of the week.
Bye, everyone.
Take care, everyone.